Hey ladies and gents, Steven here from Adolescence. Welcome back to another video. So we have a brand new indie/niche brand that just came out. This is actually a sister company of Gallagher Fragrances. If you're familiar with that brand, great. If not, I'm going to leave a card to a video up here so you can check out my thoughts on the brand. And they also have a bunch of fragrances, many of which I really enjoy. So here we have a brand new brand, a sister company called Pearlescent Parfums. We have two fragrances, Aquarose and Baklava. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on these fragrances, so make sure to stay tuned. Before I begin with my review of Aquarose and Baklava by Pearlescent Parfums, and I tell you all about these fragrances, what they smell like, any other fragrances that I could possibly compare them to on the market, so on and so forth. I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, if you like reviews just like this, but also top 10 videos, giveaways, unboxings, and more, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. And of course, if you can give this video a thumbs up, it would really help tremendously in terms of the YouTube algorithm and promoting this video a little bit more. So the perfumer for this fragrance, or both of these fragrances, I should say, is Daniel Gallagher. So he's actually the perfumer for Gallagher Fragrances, hence the name Gallagher. And the creative director is not only Daniel Gallagher, but also his wife. And so what he sought to do was make, I think, more unisex fragrances within this line, but also he wanted the creative direction of his wife. And it's really exciting that they set out on this new endeavor together to create some beautiful perfumes. And I think Daniel Gallagher is a really great perfumer, and he's made fragrances like Bergamot, and he's also made Pineapple, which is a great fruity pineapple offering. And of course, there's Amongst Waves and a chocolate-based one, a patchouli-based one, Behold Patchouli. I've actually reviewed, I think, all of them. So whenever I do find a link to any reviews that I've done of his fragrances, I'm going to leave them down below if you're interested. But here we have two brand new fragrances, number 1 and number 2, if I'm not mistaken. So Baklava and Aquarose. The first one is this dessert beautiful gourmand fragrance. I actually recently featured it in my top 10 current favorite gourmand fragrances list. And here we have this aqueous rose fragrance. All of the notes are conveniently located on the back of the box, and so I'm going to be reading those off in a second. Let's start things off with the presentation. So the first fragrance that we're going to start things off with is Baklava, and I am of Greek descent, and so this kind of hits close to home for me. And of course, I've consumed a lot of baklava in my days, I think you can tell, but I really love the smell of it. And of course, when you add almond to any perfume, that's like one of my favorite ingredients ever. And so you have sweet orange, bergamot, almond, pistachio, cherry, Tunisian neroli, golden honey, patchouli, vanilla, and musk. And right away, you get that vanilla and almond combination with a touch of orange. So mostly what you're going to get in this fragrance is not a whole lot of the neroli, in my opinion, even though that would be a top note because it's citrusy in flavor. And you're not going to get a ton of that pistachio or some of those other ingredients. The honey, yes, I do get. Oftentimes in perfumes, honey gives off a bit of a powdery vibe. This doesn't smell too powdery to my nose. So that's the only reason why I'm saying I don't think I get a whole lot of honey, but I do get that nutty accord with the almond, and I get the vanilla. And this is just a beautiful gourmand. As a matter of fact, the more you smell it and the more you let it sit on skin, the honey does start to come through. And a lot of the other notes in here, like the musks, do start to come through. But what you're going to get in the opening is that almond and vanilla combination. So gourmand, so decadent. I personally love this one. And if you're looking for something that's a little bit sweet, and especially if you're looking for something that I think is going to really shine in the autumn, Baklava would probably be your top choice. If you're looking for something that's more of like an all year round scent, something a little bit more versatile, Aquarose is the way to go. But of course, you must be a fan of rose to appreciate Aquarose because there's a lot of rose in it. And so as a gourmand fragrance and as somebody who has a proclivity towards gourmand perfumes, especially those containing the note of almond, I really love Baklava. It's an amazing fragrance. So the next one is called Aquarose. And I think, oh, this is awesome. And I think the name really gives away what this fragrance is going to smell like, but it's not as diaphanous as the name might connote. And so you have bergamot, sweet orange, you have jasmine, so it's not a soliflor, May rose, Turkish rose, sea spray, that's interesting, white ambergris, sandalwood, driftwood, and musk. So I'm guessing that the driftwood and the ambergris are kind of adding that aquatic touch to it. So there's something pretty interesting going on in here, something kind of funny as well. So my stepfather is from Cyprus, and so he's Cypriot, but he always makes baklava. And it's funny because when he makes the baklava, he uses rose water. And so it's kind of funny that these were the initial two fragrances released, because when I smelled them at the same time, I was like, wait a second, you know, this is a smell that I've smelled before. The baklava alone would have hit a trigger, but smelling these two in tandem, I was like, wait, I've smelled this before. And it's actually my stepfather who makes baklava with rose water, which is like, I don't think Daniel Gallagher did this on purpose. He certainly didn't, but it's just kind of a happy synchronicity that occurred. But baklava, beautiful fragrance. In terms of the Aquarose, you are going to get a lot of that rose that's in here. It's not a jammy rose, and so if you're expecting like a really jammy, sweet, fruity rose, that's not what you're going to get. I think Daniel Gallagher purposely went with a variety of rose that was a little bit more transparent, a little bit more diaphanous and aqueous. So it does have a little bit of citrus, which you do get right away, a touch of orange, nothing overwhelming, but then you also get that ambergris and driftwood thing happening in here. And it's a little salty, but not as salty as like a Whetstone by Amarud or a Selmaron by Healy. It's not like that. It's salty without smelling fishy or seaweedy. I hope that makes sense. And of course, salt doesn't have a smell, and so it's purely imaginative in that way. But I think it's a job really well done in terms of taking a rose note and really adding these aquatic tendencies to, in a sense, you know, make the formula a little bit more accessible and almost make it like a rose for people who might not be a huge fan of rose. I think it does make it a little bit more accessible, like I said, and a little bit more agreeable. Now, I personally am a fan of rose. It's one of the floral ingredients that I really dig, along with heliotrope and iris and orange blossom and a few others. But this is also awesome. A little bit more feminine leaning, just because it has that combination of jasmine in there. And I do get the jasmine, which is not indolic, by the way. And so if you're looking for something, I mean, both of these are completely unisex, but if you're looking for a floral offering, something that leans probably a little bit more feminine, like 60% feminine, 40% masculine, I do think that Aquarose is probably a safer bet for you. But overall, I think both of these fragrances are awesome. A job well done, Gallagher family, and I'm looking forward to the third release if you do have one in the works, which I'm sure you do, because he's always grinding, he's always working hard. So let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, both of these fragrances are really unique. Even though I've smelled a lot of other fragrances that contain almond and vanilla, there's Etro's Heliotrope, there's also Dulce Aqua by Profumum Roma, and of course there's Givenchy Pie. So there's a lot of fragrances that contain almond and vanilla, but I think what really makes this one special is the honey, the pistachio. And so he really sat down and thought about it, like, what are the ingredients that go into making baklava? And how can I incorporate these ingredients while maintaining and restoring a certain balance so that it smells realistic and wearable at the same time? Because I think that's important with gourmand perfumes. Sometimes they can be a little bit over the top where it compromises the wearability. That's not the case here. I think this one is awesome, very well done, very well put together. And then of course with Aquarose, I think it's a very accessible rose fragrance. And if you're a fan of some of these aquatic tendencies like the ambergris and the driftwood, there's definitely a lot of uniqueness and originality in this one as well. In terms of the longevity, both of these will get you about 8 hours on your skin. The projection is amazing for the first 2 hours of application, and I know Gallagher tends to concentrate his fragrances rather strongly, and especially Baklava. This is comprised of a lot of base notes. You think of the vanilla and the honey and the musks, and so you can expect these to project really well off your skin. They don't start to sit closer to the skin until about that 6.5 to 7 hour mark, so keep that in mind. In terms of versatility, I do think that this one is a little bit more versatile than Baklava. Of course, if you're wearing them indoors, wear them whenever you want. These are just recommendations, but I think this one is leaning more towards the colder weather. This one leaning more towards the hotter weather, but can be worn all year round as well. This one totally unisex. This one leaning a little bit more feminine, but also unisex. This one, special occasion, I think. And then this one, you can wear it dressed up or dressed down. And I think that anybody of any age can wear either one of these. I can see somebody who's a little bit younger gravitating towards Baklava just because of the sweet touches. And then I guess because of Aqua Rose, you need to be confident wearing rose. And so perhaps somebody who's a little bit more mature or a little bit more invested into the perfume game, if you will. But in terms of the presentation, love the presentation, love the boxes and how when you put them side by side, it creates this continuity in the graphic here. My final verdict is, if you are a fan of indie/niche perfumes, if you're a fan of gourmand perfumes, if you're familiar with Daniel Gallagher's previous works and you would like to explore some of the new things that he's come out with, check these two out. I think they're solid offerings. I know it's been reviewed a few times by some other people on YouTube, so don't take my word for it. Watch some of the other reviews, form an opinion for yourself, but these are both awesome. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you took something of value from this video. If you did, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. And also, if you can give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of these two fragrances, what fragrances you're excited to try in the near future. Just leave any sort of comment. I always love the interaction. Thanks again for watching. Love you all. We'll see you soon. Bye.